All right, this is another video in our work on the quadratic function, and specifically today we will be looking at a challenge in a real-world connection problem using the quadratic formula and the discriminant. I encourage you to pause this video, give these a try on your own, and then check back in and see how you did. All right, so let's look at the one on the left first. Using the discriminant, write a quadratic equation in standard form that has exactly one solution. All right, there are an infinite number of possibilities here, so we are going to try to just come up with one of them. And so, so one solution, let's see, b squared minus 4ac has to equal 0, right? And okay, so that means that b squared has to equal 4 times a times c. So we need to pick some numbers, okay? And let's try to make this a little bit cleaner. What I want to do is have this be nicely divisible by 4, okay? I'm just looking ahead, and let's try to keep things as integers right now. So that means we need a perfect square that's divisible by 4, okay? And so we could do something like, I don't know, 8 squared. So let's say b is 8. Okay, so 64 equals 4 times a times c. That's cool. Divide both sides by 4. We get 16 equals a times c. All right, so we need two numbers that multiply together to be 16. And let's have a equal 1 and b equals 6, or excuse me, c equals 16. Okay, so 16 would equal 1 times 16. That checks off. So we just write out our equation. So 1x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 0. So that equation would have only one solution. All right, and if you got a different answer, you can do the quad formula on it to see if you get one solution as a way of checking your work, but many possible correct answers here. Okay, a punter in football kicks the ball downfield. The path of the ball is modeled by that function where x is the horizontal distance and y is the height of the ball. How many yards will the ball travel to where it first lands? So as a quick sketch of this, we have a parabola that looks like this. We have a y-intercept of 25, so it looks like the ball leaves the punter's foot at 2.5 feet above the ground, which kind of makes a little bit of sense. And we're wondering what that value is right there. So in other words, what's x going to equal? Okay. So let's go ahead and set it up here so we can really just write out the equation that we're working with. Negative 0.008 x squared plus x plus 2.5 equals 0. It doesn't equal y anymore. It equals 0 because we're trying to find that spot where the ball hits the 0 height level. We can write out what our a, b, and c values are. And I think you can see here that a little bit of a challenge is going to be dealing with this tiny fraction for a, but we can do that. Fractions or excuse me, tiny decimal for a. Decimals are okay. So let's plug it in, and we just want to be careful with our negatives, with not trying to do too much in our head. Let's see, b squared is 1 squared minus 4 times negative 0.008 times c, and that's all over 2a, so just over 2. No, not over 2a, over, excuse me, I was doing 2b, 0.008. Okay. Super, so we can start doing a little bit of simplifying. X equals negative 1 plus or minus a big square root 1. These couple negative signs are going to cancel out right there, so it's all going to be addition inside the square root. And I'm just going to do this 4 times 2.5 times the 0.008 in my calculator. And I get 0.08 because the 4 times 2.5 turned into a 10. We just moved the decimal place. Okay, and this turns into, in the bottom, 2 times negative 0.016. Okay, so we can find the square root of 1.08. That's what that discriminant ends up being. And I will round to I'll round to 3 decimal places here. So 1 plus or minus 1.039 all over negative 0.016. So now we could do our double pathway here. So negative 1 plus 1.039 is just 0.039 over negative 0.016. And I can tell that's going to be a negative number. We have a positive divided by a negative. So I'm actually not even going to keep going with that. Looking back up at our graph, that's going to give us that solution right here, okay, to the left of the y-axis. And it's not what's being asked for. So I'm going to stop right there. But we can do the solution we're looking for. Negative 1 minus 1.039 is going to be a negative 2.039 divided by negative 0.016. So we will get a positive solution there. Two negatives, the quotient of two negatives will be a positive. Go into our calculator. We have 127.44 feet. And if you're a football fan, you know that football often works in yards. So that's going to be about 42.48 yards, which is a pretty solid punt for a football player. All right, so it seems to kind of make sense as a way of checking. It does seem reasonable. All right, that's a good place to stop right there.